All right, everyone. Bernie Sanders has received another glowing endorsement, this time from Lindasarsour of the Women's March. And it was funny when she was put in there as the head of that in the first place, considering her comments to another female amounted to wanting to chop off her vagina. Interesting times we live in. So, yes, this religious fanatic, which is, what she is. She is a religious fanatic. A zealot, you could call her, has endorsed Bernie Sanders. Which is really funny because she's like, pro-Palestine and Bernie Sanders is Jewish, so it makes even more odd bedfellows there in politics. Lindasarsour's endorsement, to be realistic here, doesn't matter to anyone who doesn't have pink hair, because even most mainline feminists appear to understand that Sarsour, if you want her to speak for you, that's not a good idea. It's probably not good for your brand. And what people like her, what they do usually is they'll try to browbeat other people into sort of tolerating them co-opting whatever political movement they're part of. What'll happen is they'll say basically, like side with me, and if you don't do that, they'll say, well, maybe they're like a racist or xenophobe or something, and most people just buckle, and they'll take that label, and they'll say, no, I'm not sexist, yeah, I'm sorry about the misunderstanding, Miss Sarsour, I love you so much, and they'll do stupid shit like that. But this roughly echoes what Bernie Sanders did, in the last election. Remember that time BLM invaded his stage, and he just stood there looking at the floor while they made their speech? And browbeat everyone and yelled and stuff, and to his very small core fan base that probably looked great. Oh my God, here's a white male and he's standing aside for these black women of power and they're speaking truth to power, black power, which is what BLM is. And it looked good to them. To like 90% of the nation is like, what the hell are you smoking? Basically. You got to understand that politics are different. When you have an active primary, it's not like the Republican side. There's no primaries there to have. Trump's the nominee. He doesn't have to temper what he believes in. On the Democratic side, though, you have to do the political theater thing. So you'll see like Hillary Clinton pander and talking about hot sauce in her pocketbook, or Elizabeth Warren will do cringy live stream with a beer, or Beto will get his hair cut mysteriously. That's really good campaigning on his behalf. On his part, or Biden will pop another blood vessel in his eye. That's his idea of campaigning now. You've got some weirdos in the Democratic Party for sure. Now you've got this extremely far left individual who's also a religious fanatic backing Bernie Sanders. I'm a strong pro-Palestinian feminist, so I'm going to endorse an old white dude who's Jewish, says Lindasarsour. This is not strange at all, by the way. Again, this is totally, and actually it is kind of normal within politics because it's fucked up. Our political system has some issues. Bernie Sanders, his campaign is dead in the water, though. If you look at some of the new polling, it looks like he's ticking downward again. Elizabeth Warren has basically supplanted him for second place. She's riding a couple points ahead of him. It's fun times. Elizabeth Warren in a close second. Biden's still way out in front. Bernie Sanders needs, I guess, the endorsement. But is this going to help? I mean, if you're a Bernie Sanders fan, you're still a fan of him. And if you're not a Bernie Sanders fan, chances are, in part, it's probably because you're not far left enough to support him. Or maybe you just don't like the idea that he's, extremely old or extremely white and male. Represents maybe the yesteryear of the Democratic Party, according to some of the Gen Z, young millennial sort of pink-haired crowd. How the hell is this going to help him with any of those voting blocks? It's not going to help him with the... it's going to help him with working-class, blue dog swing state voters in Michigan or in Iowa. I'm sure. Lindasarsour gets aboard. I want him to take her up as a surrogate. That would be really funny. She can go out and she can literally campaign for Bernie Sanders, and that would be really, really funny. I will say one thing, though. Elizabeth Warren's probably fuming, and Kamala Harris even more. They probably would have liked Lindasarsour's endorsement. Joe Biden's like, he wouldn't have gotten it, he wouldn't have sought it. I think he's too centristic. By the standards of the Democratic Party, a centrist, which is funny as fuck. I think it probably does hurt Warren maybe a little bit. Because in all honesty, again, you've got this feminist icon, supposedly, backing Bernie Sanders over several female candidates who are technically viable. It must sting for them. So that's the big loser of the day, Elizabeth Warren. She would have been the big loser a week ago, but Tulsi Gabbard was canned from the possibility of the September debate. So yeah, she got one up on the Democratic Party then, and this deflates her a little bit. But I don't think it helps Sanders. Yeah, I'm sure the average Sanders voter is like, they know who Sarsour is. No, I think most of them don't. The Bernie bros are a little bit less into the identity politics, at least on that part, because a lot of them are male. And so I don't think that they like the Women's March. Like, who would? I can't imagine why a female would like the Women's March. Lindasarsour is literally a fanatic. If anything, she makes the brand of feminism less attractive to the average person by berating others and saying, seemingly violent shit about cutting people's vaginas off. And going off into La La Land with the Palestine thing, which has nothing to do with the Women's March itself. The problem is she's splitting her message. If she wanted to be an advocate for Palestine, that's one thing. But if you're also going to advocate for third wave rad feminism, it's kind of odd to endorse, religious groups that maybe don't have the best women's rights record in the world, while also endorsing a Jewish presidential candidate. All sorts of fucking surreal. That's about all. Peace out.